I think, understanding that God has a plan for you and it's not affected by anyone else is also what will help you realize that no one else is going to diminish your success. Like your success is going to happen no matter what.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. FYI, did you know that Of the West offers free resources to help you in the job hunting and the hiring game? For all of you job seekers, these would be things like how to prepare for a job interview, tips and tricks to make sure your resume is top-notch, how to make the most of an internship, different career options that you can consider in the ag and Western industries, or even strategies behind how to transition from one career to the next. For those of you who are employers, we have articles on ideas of questions that you can ask in your job interviews, how to cultivate a really strong company culture, reminders on what questions are illegal to ask an applicant, strategies for how to determine if a hybrid or remote work schedule would work best for your team, and so many more. You can find all of those and everything else we have for free resources at ofthewest.co. Once you're there, click on resources and you're off to the races. And as always, if you're looking for something specific but you can't find it, let us know and we can either help you find it or we can add it to our list of things to create in the future. Once again, that's ofthewest.co. Once you're there, click on resources and you'll find all of that and so much more. Today we have a very inspiring episode, really honing in on the idea of community and being somebody who is really willing to share information versus being a gatekeeper, which we often hear in agriculture. But we're sitting down with Torie Egger. So Torie is a wildly successful, talented photographer in the ag and Western space. And she has done a few things just phenomenally, which is why I asked her to be a guest and I wanted her to share this. So number one, she has really carved her niche, focusing specifically on Western lifestyle and Western fashion, which is something for a lot of photographers. They think that when they're getting started, they need to book anything and everything so that they can make money. And Torie kind of bucks that myth and really doubles down on booking the types of shoots that you want to be known for and worrying more about building that strong foundation, because at some point that is what is actually going to make you be able to pay the bills. So I love that. And then we really talk a lot about that community side, as I mentioned before, because Torie is very well known for her desire to be somebody who is really open and sharing all that she has to offer other photographers so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that she did when she was early on in her career. So her mantra is everybody has a seat at my table. And that is something that I think that more of us need to adopt. And so I really wanted to highlight Torie in how she's been able to really build that, and also how to not feel threatened by other people who we may see as our competitors in our industry, because a rising tide lifts all ships. And so I am just really, I know I say inspired often because I am really inspired by our guests, but I am very inspired by Torie and the work that she has done to really, truly create community. So we're going to talk about that as well. But you guys are in for a real treat with this episode. We're going to get right to it. Torie Egger, Leaders of the West. Hello, everybody. We have Torie with us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I always say that I'm excited for our interview, but it's because I truly am excited. You are somebody who we've never met in person before, but I have really followed you online and looked up to you for a number of reasons. First of all, you are wildly talented when it comes to photography, but you also have really taken a very unique approach to being somebody who is very open and who wants to be a teacher. You share anything and everything about your craft. You're not worried about keeping secrets. You really believe in that saying that a rising tide lifts all ships. And that is something, I hate to say that it's rare, but it kind of is, especially in a business like yours, when if I'm looking for a photographer, I might pick you, I might pick somebody else. Like it is very one versus one versus one. So for you to be somebody who is just so open and welcoming and like really focused on creating community for others with that same craft, I have a wild amount of respect for that. So that's really what we're going to dig into today. But I want to set this up a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about you, how you got into photography. What is your connection to agriculture? Where are you? Who is Torie Egger?
Yeah. So, hi, my name is Torie. I started photography over 12 years ago when I was 14. And I grew up on a feedlot, a cow-calf operation, and we also did show cattle and show pigs. So when I was first starting out photography, my first clients were the cattle and the pigs that we had on our feedlot and the cow-calf operation. When I was 15, I did my first paid session, which was a maternity session, and I charged $25 for it, which is crazy. I would never charge that nowadays, and I would never recommend someone starting out to charge $25. And I remember editing the session on PicMonkey.com. Have you ever heard of PicMonkey.com?
No, but I can imagine. I mean, it's not Lightroom, right? So,
Did you ever use Picnic back in the day?
yes.
Okay, so it's really similar to that. So after I shot the maternity session, I also shot a wedding when I was 15. And I edited both of those on PicMonkey.com, which is very similar to Picnic. Like you put the text on top. And I remember I edited the maternity photo super like blue and pink colors. And I had the person come to my feedlot because I couldn't drive at the time. And they were horrible. Like I still look at them nowadays, which is really cool to like post them nowadays and be like, this is where I started and this is where I've gotten to. A lot of people think it happens overnight. And so it's really good to show that growth. And then when I shot the wedding, I edited those super bright and airy. So even like back in the day, I wasn't like keeping a consistent editing style because I was just trying anything and everything. And that was something I kind of wish I didn't do. I wish I would have stuck with one style and like kept going through the phases instead of just, one day you'd get a session that was like super moody. One day you'd get a session that was super bright and airy. Or I thought all weddings had to be bright and airy and then all my family sessions had to be moody or all my livestock stuff needed to be in black and white and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I did back in the beginning days where it was just trial and error. It's like, it's what I had to go through to get to where I am nowadays. And I love being able to teach that to people and kind of show them that I actually went through this. And here's what I'm telling you not to do this.
Yeah. Learn from my mistakes.
Yes. I see beginners nowadays who are growing so much faster than I am. And I think it's due to, I was in high school from 2010 to 2014 and social media was not the way it was nowadays.
Not at all.
I think Instagram had just come out and nowadays I can open Instagram and learn how to do something in Photoshop on a reel, which is crazy how many resources people have of free education, of going on YouTube or, even the stuff that I put out. Like there's so much content like that you can easily figure out what you need. And I think that's so amazing. But yeah, so my experience with starting photography was literally printing off my manual and like physically reading it and like going through and figuring out my camera. I had a best friend who also was doing photography at the time. We kind of started our businesses at the same time. So we were also kind of helping each other learn. But like that was the only educational experience I had growing up with photography. It was all like just taking the camera out there and learning myself and growing as I was going.
And honestly, I think that that's one of the most important ways to learn because as we make mistakes, unfortunately, that's what we tend to learn the best from. Like somebody can tell us what to do and like, okay, I won't do that. But honestly, until you make the mistake and you've had that kind of like painfulness about something, then you realize like, oh, I am absolutely not doing that again because I learned from that. And I think that too, in hindsight, we've all been in that scenario. Like, had I known now what I do compared to when I started Of the West, like it would have been completely different. But had I not done those things early on, I never would have learned and gotten where I are. And that's definitely part of our growth story.
That's what I always say is that, yeah, go and make those mistakes. It's really important to set up your own types of shoots when you're first starting out and kind of building that portfolio. So you have the time to make mistakes, but not while you're doing like paid client work. And there's still going to be times where you are making mistakes with paid client work. And obviously you're going to just have to be upfront and be like, hey, I made this mistake. Like, can we redo this over or can I refund you or stuff like that? But it's really important to just set up your own work too and make those mistakes and just, when you get a camera, just take it outside and, take pictures of flowers, do whatever you can to learn. Take those resources you learn online and put them to use because I am such a hands-on person. I like being face-to-face with education and doing it hands-on. And so, yeah, I just can't, sit there and listen to a YouTube video and then expect to get it right away,
Oh, absolutely. And two, there's so many silver linings in mistakes. I'm a big believer in finding the positive in any situation. So Yeah, you probably wouldn't recommend to people to charge $25 for your first session, but you talked about how the editing was maybe not great. And I'm sure that the customer was happy at the time, but she definitely wasn't looking for a refund for her $25. So
Yeah.
there was that silver lining.
Yes. No, I completely agree. Even if you are charging, a small fee to cover your gas or cover something, that's really helpful too. So then you're not losing so much money, but still being able to cover the cost of your shoot and make things happen.
Oh, absolutely. So you're somebody who you have such a strong and very recognizable brand identity. Is there a pivotal moment or maybe a realization that pushed you to define your business in such a very clear and intentional way? Because like we said, when you first started out, you had some photos that were, dark and moody, and you had the bright and airy, and every session had kind of a different feel. So obviously that wasn't necessarily the brand identity piece wasn't something early on in the beginning. So where did you kind of pick that up and how have you developed that?
So I don't really feel like my brand identity came until I started my tagline, "Everyone has a seat at my table." Prior to that, I was always switching up like what kind of colors I used, what kind of fonts I used, how my website looked. I mean, I've changed my website so many times just because I'm so inconsistent, just like my home decor. I change it all the time. So my tagline really kickstarted my identity online as well. So my first quote post, "If you're more fortunate than others, build a longer table, not a taller fence," was a pivotal moment in me creating my tagline as well. And I was also able to find a font that really fit my brand as well. It was like a Western aesthetic type font that I use for my logo, any type of branding, my text on my website, my quote, my educational posts. I put it on, my invoices, all that kind of stuff. And I've had people tell me they recognize my business through my font sometimes, which is crazy.
I was just going to ask, is that the same font that you use to this day? Because I literally recognize that. When I see it in my feed, I don't have to look at who posted it. I instantly know, oh, that's Torie.
Yeah, so that's the longest time I've ever kept a font or like a logo or any type of colors for my branding, which is crazy because I've always been switching it up. But I think I just realized that, I was growing a platform online and my work kept getting shared. So when I was first doing my quote posts, I forgot to put my name on them. And so they get shared everywhere. Like they get shared on Facebook, they get shared on Pinterest, YouTube, wherever, without my name on them. Like people won't tag me. People don't realize it's my photo because they find it from somewhere else. But then people will start tagging me because either they recognize my image or they recognize the font. And they know that, oh, this is Torie made that quote post. That was the quote that she said. And that's her photo. And so that's been really cool too. People to even just recognize my font and, recognize my logo on things. And then, yeah, my growth online and even my educational side of my business also helped me push to keep a consistent brand identity because I'm the one teaching people, oh, you should keep a consistent brand identity, keep a consistent editing style, all this stuff. And I need to be able to do it myself. So I need to be able to, do what I preach.
Oh, absolutely. So out of curiosity, to give our listeners kind of a frame of reference, because we've been talking about this font a lot, which again, a font doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it is a very important piece of a brand identity. How long have you been using this specific font?
I think I've been using it since 2020.
Okay, so for 5 years now.
Yeah.
If somebody's listening to this and they are, in the tractor or whatever they're doing, and they want to go look at you up online real quick so they can see what we're talking about, where can they find you?
Oh, my Instagram is Torie Egger. And I think that's probably where I post the most. Or you can look at my website, torieeggerphotography.com. Then I also have Facebook, which is Torie Egger, and TikTok, which is also Torie Egger.
Awesome. And it's TorieEgger.
Yes.
So for those of you who are not driving, you're not behind the wheel, you can head over to Instagram. You'll see exactly what we're talking about in this very unique, but very strong and recognizable brand identity. So one of the other things that, again, in addition to that, I think that you really stand out with is that you've shared your frustration about gatekeeping in the creative community, which is what has led to the birth of Everyone Has a Seat at My Table. So was there a specific situation or instance that made you feel called to start sharing your knowledge with others rather than just keeping it to yourself?
Yeah. So I feel like I've always been open to sharing my knowledge. I just, for the longest time, wasn't confident that I was good enough to share it. And so even before I just started my whole educational side of my business and the whole everyone has a seat at my table, I was still answering people's DMs and that kind of stuff. And I grew up in a family that has the everyone has a seat at my table mindset. I grew up showing pigs. That's like a big part of my life. And so my family would get other people involved in pig showing while we were showing. So they were going weekly to other people's houses and telling them what to feed their pigs, how to show them. We were taking them to all the like national shows. And, we've even helped people win big banners and that kind of stuff. And then even during COVID, we put on a pig show in our backyard just so people in our area could have
a place to go show.
Yeah, a place to go show, because a lot of people in our area just go to the county fair, but they sometimes go to like the progress shows just to prepare. And we had people come and like teach stuff and whatnot. And so I think, growing up with a family doing stuff like that, that also inspired me to just start sharing my knowledge, because we were literally teaching people who were showing against us, our competition, and my brother always says that, agriculture will only get better with communication throughout generations. And I also think that applies to the creative world. So even my dad, we live on a feedlot and he currently has a hired hand who knows nothing about agriculture. I think like the first week working there, he thought the steers were females. And that just kind of opened his eyes to how much the kid doesn't really know. But my dad's willing to teach him and willing to get more people involved in the industry. And even just to, take someone and turn them into the ideal employee for him too is great. I've had really good examples in my life of people who aren't afraid to show others. They aren't afraid of competition. They're willing to teach other people, even people that are showing right next to them. And I think that applies in my life too with photographers, because so many people, are filled with insecurities. They have that, if I tell someone this location, they're going to come and take all my business. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is so not true. And so, yeah, that's kind of my answer.
Well, and honestly, I kind of get it, right? A lot of creatives do fear that sharing their knowledge is kind of going to somehow diminish their success, just because, again, it is a very like, if I'm going to hire a photographer, I'm not going to hire 4 of them. I only need 1 of them. So I can kind of understand where it is a very one versus one industry, if you will. But how did you work through that mindset and come to embrace the idea of really like lifting others up in business to be stronger? You obviously mentioned your parents, but specifically on the creative side, did you really see that when you first came into the industry?
Yes. So when I first started, I would get tons of DMs from people. I would answer their questions and then they would send me a long response about how thankful they were that I responded because no one else did. And so that was also kind of a pivotal moment and why I realized, okay, there's a need for this. And also just in the creative world, there's not a lot of education. Regular photography versus Western photography is so different, especially like ranch lifestyle stuff. You need to be educated on the Western lifestyle to know that you're documenting it correctly. Or even Western fashion, you need to be up with the trends and knowing what kind of boutiques you want to work with. It's just so different from me going and photographing a simple senior or a family and that kind of stuff. I wouldn't say I ever had a problem sharing my knowledge. I did, however, start out having a competitive mindset, and I would get jealous of other people's success and compare myself to others. And that's what kept me so long from building a community. I felt like I didn't have as many photographer friends growing up. I also grew up in a small town. There were other photographers that I could have connected with, but I just had a competitive mindset because we all lived in such a small town. And I wanted the business, even though I was the only one doing Western photography and it was so different from what everyone else was doing. That was still my biggest issue, was I was competitive, comparing myself to others, getting jealous when even my best friend got an opportunity that I didn't. And then another reason that I felt like I didn't want to share my knowledge was that I didn't think I was good enough. I, for the longest time, felt like I had to have a certain amount of followers or I had to be at a certain point in my career to teach. And that's not true. Like even in my beginning days, I could have taught someone how to use shoot in manual mode, which is the first thing you learn when getting a camera. And so there's a lot that even as a beginner, you can teach other people. And it's kind of just fulfilling to be able to share your knowledge with others and help people grow along with you. And even if you're religious, I think, understanding that God has a plan for you and it's not affected by anyone else is also what will help you realize that no one else is going to diminish your success. Like your success is going to happen no matter what.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. God has a dream and a gift and a plan for all of us. And, maybe some of us have very similar gifts, but that doesn't mean we all have very similar plans, right? We all have very unique to us opportunities. Then we're all going to get somewhere at the end, it's going to be with God. But yes, no, I completely agree. I love the connection. I think that that's very important. So we've talked a little bit about the sense that a lot of people do feel like this community can diminish people's success, or sharing knowledge can diminish their success. Have you ever experienced pushback from others in your industry or in any industry who don't really share that same philosophy? If so, how have you handled that?
So I'm pretty fortunate that I haven't received much pushback unless it's been said behind my back. I feel like I've done a great job of creating a community of like-minded established creatives and even beginners who just want to learn. And so if I were to experience pushback, I think I would either ignore it because I do not like drama, or I would figure out a way to turn it into a teaching moment. Maybe like educating the person on why it's okay that I'm sharing this knowledge, or, if they don't agree what I say, then I could maybe learn from them too if I'm not being truthful about something and I didn't know, or you know what I mean?
No, that makes perfect sense. So let's talk a little bit more about specifically the photography side of things, because again, I think that you have such a unique brand identity and a vibe in general. Creativity and business often kind of feel like they are two very opposing forces, right? You either are in a creative space or you are in your business spreadsheet space. How do you balance that need to continually stay inspired and creative because you are doing a variety of different sessions every single day of the week, while also being very business focused and making sure that your business thrives?
Yes. I think a big part of staying inspired and artistic for me is that I keep doing personal shoots, keep doing personal projects. I find inspiration on social media and Pinterest, and then I go and make those happen. Personal projects for me are no stress because if I fail, I can always redo the shoot or, try again. It's my time to learn new things because I can always be growing and learning and doing different things. And I feel like when I do personal projects, they help me to not get burnt out, which is so important when it comes to the business side of my business, because even when I leave my personal projects, I feel like such a different photographer. I feel like such a better photographer because I'm usually learning something new. I'm usually learning something that's going to benefit my business and help me grow. And so then when it comes into my paid work, I feel like I'm just more intentional. I'm using my new things that I learned, or I'm just inspired. I'm creative and I have new ideas running into my brain.
I love that. As you say that, I think of silversmiths or leather workers specifically. When they have a lot of custom orders, they are creating something that somebody else wants. It's not necessarily the thing that they want to be creating at the time. And so I think that it's really important again, I'm using this as an example because I think it's pretty easy to understand. I think it's really important for those types of makers, if you will, to obviously do those custom orders, but then they have to let their own creativity come out, and they have to really enjoy what they're working on by doing pieces that they just want to build because they want to build, and not just taking a pile of custom orders that, yes, they're obviously getting to use those skills, but maybe they don't necessarily feel like called to create those items the way that the person who is paying for the custom order wants that item. And so I have seen a lot of success from those types of makers who, when they do have custom orders, they take a pause in between those and they create stuff that they want to create just because they want to. There's always going to be a market for that thing. You're always going to be able to sell it. If not, obviously it's something you can keep for yourself because you felt called to make it. So chances are you're going to love it and you can keep it for a while and then sell it. But I think that there's a lot of similarities there between that importance of really doing things that are for you, not just for the customer. Because it really, by doing things for yourself, you're able to then pour back into your customers in a better way because you're not feeling burnout and you're not in those creative ruts.
Yes, I completely agree. And even just doing, the personal projects to help you, if you do one personal project, one portfolio building shoot, it's going to lead you to so much paid work. And so even with these personal projects, I can post them online and gain more followers on social media. I could put it in my portfolio and use it to get more business. So there's even more, monetary gain if you want to think about it that way. Because I get that a lot of people want to be making money. They always think they need to be making money. They always think they need to be getting paid for a shoot. But these projects like this are going to lead you to so much business. And it's going to be business that you want to be doing because it's the shoot that you set up.
And you make such a good point there on just the opportunity to create content for yourself. I mean, we are in a very content-driven world to where you do have to have content for yourself that you are continually sharing so that people can see your work so that they can want to book you. So yes, obviously you can share what you have created for others, but why not create stuff that you get to share? Why not, again, get to put yourself in the customer's shoes to really be your own customer and create that? I love that thought process there. Thank you for putting together that, because I think that that is going to be an example or an analogy that people really relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So you have said in the past that photography is far more than just taking pretty pictures. Can you kind of elaborate on that and how you have really came to walk that walk?
Yeah, I think something I really struggled with for the longest time was charging my worth. Along with that, like I would be charging less and doing a ton of shoots, which was great, but that was what was leading me to burnout. Now that I charge more and I do less paid shoots, I can still make the same amount or even more because, I was doing that so long ago. But this changed the way I worked because I was able to be more intentional with my paid shoots and then do more of my personal projects. And so it's saved me from, getting burnt out, and I'm able to have more time to do personal projects for my portfolio. So I definitely feel like, getting confident and learning how to charge your worth is going to be something that's going to change your business.
Oh, absolutely. I think, again, I feel like this episode is full of analogies and examples, but would you rather have 100 friends that are all pennies, or would you rather have 4 quarters?
Yes, yes.
This is the quality over quantity, right? So most of us would rather have 4 quarters. Well, this is the same thing when it comes to work, right? Would you rather have 100 projects or shoots, or again, for our listeners, whatever thing you're doing, would you rather have 100 of them where you got a penny? Or would you rather have 4 of them where you got a quarter? You're still going to be making the same. It's 100 at the end of the day, but it is how you're able to spend that time and get more based on the investment of the time that you're putting in.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And yeah, just being able to be more intentional at shoots is probably the biggest thing. And, if you're going from shoot to shoot to shoot, you are getting burnt out. You're just rush, rush, rush. And so it's really great that I can stop and really plan. I can do better with planning as well. When I have more time to plan and more time to set up the shoots, my paid shoots and that kind of stuff, I can make mood boards. I can communicate better with clients. So there's just an overall aspect of how it changes my business.
Because of that, you're able to give more of yourself to your clients in that way. And so they feel like the investment that they made in you is absolutely worth it, because instead of being distracted or maybe giving 90%, you were really able to go all in and make it a true experience for them.
Yes, I completely agree.
Okay, so we've got our rapid fire round, but I have one last question that I want to ask you before we get to that. And that is, what is a piece of advice that you would give to aspiring photographers now that maybe it was something that you resisted in the early days, or that you didn't fully understand when you were starting out, or something that you just wish that you would have done earlier on?
Okay, something I wish that I would have done when I was first starting out was to establish what kind of photographer I wanted to be. I was waiting for any opportunities to come to me and only doing paid work for like the first, I don't know how many, 4 years of my business. I was only doing, when people would come and book a shoot with me, I'd take it and that was it. And I was taking any type of shoot just because I wanted the experience, but none of those shoots really helped my business. And so I think it's so important to set up your own personal projects, build that portfolio. So I didn't realize until 2018 that I wanted to be Western fashion and Western lifestyle, that I really wanted to niche down and do the Western stuff. And so I kind of had to restart my business and spend 6 months doing portfolio building shoots of just setting up shoots, ranch lifestyle stuff, setting up people wearing jeans, setting up people wearing big furry coats, Western fashion stuff, doing cool photo shoots to put in my portfolio. Because how many times can I photograph a pair of Kimes Ranch jeans before I actually get booked with a Kimes Ranch photo shoot? I don't think people realize how much easier it is to set up your own experiences than most types of jobs. As doctors, you can't just go and have surgeries for fun. But
No.
as a photographer, you can do your own photo shoots for fun. And even in the Western world, it's so easy to find people that already have the stuff. So I can find people who have Kimes Ranch jeans, Wrangler clothing, beer cans, cowboy hats. brands that I want to work with, I can find people that already have that stuff. So I don't even have to worry about reaching the brand. And so I just think that's what makes it easier than, getting experience in other jobs. You can set up all that kind of stuff. You can really curate your portfolio to be exactly what you want. And then you can also post that online to let people know this is the type of stuff I would like to be getting booked for. So nowadays, I still do families, seniors, engagements, and all that kind of work, but it's all Western. So it's usually including some type of livestock, horses, cowboy boots, cowboy hats. And so I'm still doing all that stuff, but it's stuff that I love. So I'm able to do projects that are similar to my personal projects. And that also helps me keep wanting to do photography and stay inspired.
You know who else, as you were saying that, who I was thinking of, who is a famous photographer in the Western space, who I really see a lot of those similarities to, is Ben Christensen.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, I love Ben Christensen. And I feel like he's always he's booking some amazing jobs, but he's always doing things for fun or for himself, or like the dancers out in the desert, or just like very unique things to continue to spur his own creativity.
Yes, I completely agree. And I believe in that so much. So in your beginning days, I would not even worry about making money. I would focus on creating your own personal projects, setting all that up and making it happen. Just getting out there and shooting. Find models on Instagram, reach out to your neighbors. If you grew up in the Western industry, you've got people down the street from you that can model for you. Have your dad put on a pair of Wrangler jeans. Do whatever you can to just get started. And once you start posting that online, you're going to start getting reached out to by even smaller brands. And then you can work your way up to working with the bigger brands.
Okay, I told you I had one more question before our rapid fire round, but I lied. I have one more before our rapid fire round, because we're talking about the process that goes into really like starting small and continuing to work up until you get to book those big brands. What is a dream shoot for you? Or like, what is the epitome of brand that you want to work with that you haven't yet, maybe? Like, what's on your vision board, if you want to share it?
That's a good one. I'm trying to think. There's so many brands that I want to work with. I have like a bucket list. I have a bucket list photo shoot that I want to do. Like I have a list of photos that I want to do. And one thing on my bucket list is there's a photographer that I follow. His name is Peter McKinnon. And he did a photo shoot out in the Navajo Nations. And it was just a Native American guy on a horse. I think it was an older Native American guy. And he took it on like a film camera. So it looks really cool. But he's like standing out, or he's sitting on his horse, like out on a rock. And he has his headdress on and the full regalia. And that is a dream shoot for me. Like I would love to do that. I don't think I necessarily have one brand that really sticks out that I want to work with, because there's just so many out there. But I think that's a big one. And I've also worked with, Wrangler, Cinch, Pendleton, all those. And so I've kind of hit those goals too of like brands that I wanted to work with when I was first starting out. But yes, that's a dream bucket list shoot for me.
I'm also going to put into the universe, I think that we need Naomi Glass's Torie Egger. That would be fabulous. Kind of along those same lines.
Her polo collection.
Yes, that would be amazing. Okay, now we can get to the rapid fire round. What is one thing you hope people remember about you?
So it's kind of random, but I hope people remember how much I made them laugh, because I'm always cracking jokes at sessions and making people laugh in life. And that's just something I want people to remember.
And that is a good skill for a photographer to have, because again, how many of us actually like to be in front of the camera? Not necessarily everybody does. I'm thinking of maybe the men in our lives when it comes to those family shoots, right? So I think any opportunity you can have to kind of disarm people and make them feel, at home or, in that joking manner, I think is awesome.
Yes. And I always say that it's so important to share your personality online, because everyone can take a good photo, but not everyone can have the type of personality to work with people. So even when it comes to reaching your ideal client, I need to do better about sharing how funny I am online, because I will show up to sessions and people will be like, I didn't realize you were this funny. Like, we loved working with you. We felt comfortable in front of the camera. Or even just getting those awkward people to like break through their shell has been so fun. And so, yeah, I just love making people laugh.
And giving you a genuine smile. I can imagine that's a good one too. Okay, what is a non-negotiable in your life?
I think a non-negotiable would be to always be open to learning. I never want to think I'm the best, because then I'll never grow. I have a few people in my life that I know that kind of have that mindset, and I just don't feel like they're growing because they kind of have a arrogant attitude. and they just think they're the best and they don't want to take anyone else's advice. And I'm just the kind of person that I'm not the best. Like I talked about Peter McKinnon. He's one of my favorite people that I look up to, and he's inspired me to do so much with my life. And I just think that we can always be learning. We're never the best. And I love that.
That's maybe the mic drop moment of the show right there. Okay,
Yeah.
if you were a professional athlete, what would your walk-up song be?
Okay, I wrote down Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress.
Yes, by the Hollies.
Yes.
Was a long, cool woman in a black dress.
Yes.
Yes, I like that.
I love that song. It's like the perfect, I don't know what kind of sport I'd be playing, but I'm sure I can fit it into any sport.
Okay, well, your next photo shoot, you're going to have to play that, right? That'll get everybody in a good mood.
Get everyone hyped up.
Okay, what is the smartest thing somebody's ever told you?
I think the smartest thing that I've ever heard within photography is the best kind of camera is the one that you can afford to replace. I heard that and I was like, this is so true, because if I were to buy a camera that was so expensive, I would feel like I wouldn't be able to do anything with it. And for me, I like to, be in the dirt. Sometimes I'm like laying in the dirt, getting a downward shot of someone riding a horse at me. So there's dirt. Even when I was showing livestock, I would take pictures in the ring and my camera would be filled with sawdust. There's times where like rocks have come and like cracked my lenses and that kind of stuff. And if I wasn't able to replace those, I probably never would have taken those experiences and done the cool shoots that I've done.
Oh, yes. This is not necessarily a comparison, but same thing. So I have this beautiful squash blossom and I have had it for years and years and years, probably, I'm going to say 8+ years. It was a vintage find, like a pawn shop type situation. And then one day somebody told me, I had worn it out somewhere and somebody had told me how much it was worth. And now ask me the last time I wore it, because I'm absolutely terrified that it's going to break or I'm going to lose a stone or whatever it is. So now it literally just sits in a safe because I am too nervous to wear it, because again, that same mentality of the replacement, I'd never be able to replace it, right? So now I don't want to ever actually show it off, which what good is it doing in a safe? Like, why do I own it if I can't wear it? So that's kind of a silly comparison, but it is so true about if you have this expensive camera and you are going to potentially break it, you're not going to really go all in because you're going to be too worried about, oh no, what if I break my camera versus, oh no, what if I don't get this shot?
Yes. And I also think that they think that you need the best gear to get the best photos. And I've seen people create some great photos with beginner cameras. I still have my first camera, so I want to start creating content where I, start using it again at photo shoots, just take a couple photos and kind of be like, oh, here's how you can take a good photo on a Canon T3i, because that was the first camera I ever had. And yeah, I mean, maybe once you get established within your business, you can start investing more in gear if, you're making enough money to afford it, because it is really expensive. Gear is not cheap. So that's why I just keep saying, like, use the camera you have and make it work.
Well, and too specific, I know a lot of you who are listening to this are not photographers, but something else, I have a great friend who is a fabulous photographer, and she was at a rodeo and I was asking her about what she was shooting with, and it was a lens that she had rented for the weekend. Like, she had leased it because it wasn't something that she needed every day of the year. It was something that she really just needed for this specific rodeo. She shoots it every year. And it has kind of a funny arena and location. And so she needs a different lens. So again, there are options like that too, where you can lease it or rent it and send it back. So that way you don't have the full investment. I think that just being kind of creative in that is really, really important.
Yes. And I've had people talk about, they'll ask me about gear and be like, should I buy this? And I straight up tell them, the first thing I say is rent it out and see if you like it. Because even though I use this for ranch livestock photography, you might not like how it works for you. It's just, everyone has a different preference on how they like the camera how heavy they like the camera, or how light they want it, or what type of lens they want to use, what type of focal length. And so, yeah, renting out camera gear has been so great.
Okay, last question for you today. And that is, let's talk about favorite things. Do you have a favorite, maybe it's a podcast or a book or a service, a product, a life hack, something that you just want more people to know about because it's changed your life in some way?
Yeah. So I have the most random life hack.
I love it.
Because I have ADHD, when it comes to cleaning my house, I will start cleaning one room and then I will find something in that room, take it to another room, and then start cleaning that room. And so I feel like I never finish a project. And so I start a bunch of different rooms and then I never fully get them finished. So this lady on TikTok was like, okay, what you need to do is bring a basket into your bedroom when you're cleaning your bedroom, put everything in that basket that doesn't belong in that room. And it changed my life because now I don't leave the room. My problem was I would leave the room, find something else in that room, take it to the next room, start cleaning that, and vice versa. It'd just be a whole thing. And she said, take that basket, put everything in it, and then you don't have to worry about leaving the room or starting any other projects.
Oh my gosh. You know whose life you just changed? Me. It's my life because I do the same thing. I'm like a Roomba where I go, oh, this needs to go in the kitchen. Oh, while I'm in the kitchen, I'll clean this. Oh, this needs to go to the bathroom. Then I'm in the bathroom. And then, I do get my whole house clean. It takes me about a day and it's item by item, not room by room by room. So that is genius.
Oh yeah. I heard that and I was like, wow, this is changing my life.
Okay. I know that's probably going to be, that might have been the mic drop moment because I know so many women are going to relate to that. Torie, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Again, you guys can find Torie Egger at TorieEgger. That is on Instagram. That is TorieEggerPhotography.com, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all of those, Torie Egger. If you guys want to also sign up for some of your courses, because you do have those as well on continuing to build that longer table for people, those are through your website. So you can go to TorieEggerPhotography.com. You can look at Torie's courses if you are somebody who is a photographer who really wants to continue to grow in your skills. Thank you so much for being here. This was a great episode. I wish you guys could see the smile on my face right now. This totally fulfilled me. Torie, you are awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Of course, we are going to be back here next week with a brand new episode of Leaders of the West. But between now and then, do me a favor. Will you tag us in your stories with your favorite part of today's episode? I have a feeling I know it's going to be that end hack about the take a basket into every room, but still, it's worthwhile, right? That's why we have that question, is because again, those little things that can change your life. And Torie, you have absolutely changed mine today. Thank you so much. I know our listeners are going to feel the same. And you guys, I said it already, but we'll be back here next week. We'll see you then.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.